Привет, I'm Chuck Olinik, a Ukrainian-American, baptized with the name Yaroslav, and that is the name of my persona in the Society for Creative Anachronism, Yaroslav the Persistent. Most people call me Yari. I've been posting videos of my research into Slavic mythology and folklore and Eastern European history, and I've been sharing those in an attempt to raise awareness of these cultures so that perhaps those in the society might get interested in developing a persona in that part of the world and try to develop it in a fairly thorough way. So what I did in the last video is I covered the Battle of the River Kalka. It took place in 1223, and the Mongols invaded the land of the Rus for the first time. They hadn't planned on conquest, and when they came in, they inflicted such a horrendous defeat upon the princes that one Rus soldier in 10 survived. So that was the more history part. This is the way the Novgorodian Chronicle covered it. Apparently the report was written in the south, but it was incorporated further north under the year 6732, being 1224 in the Common Era. I got it out of here, and I want to show you the differences between the history and the way the chronicles worked. 6732. In the same year, for our sins, there came unknown tribes. No one knew who they were or what their origin, faith, or tongue, and some people called them Tartars, while others called them Tarmans, and still others called them Pechenegs. Here we record them in memory of the misfortunes of the Russian princes that came about at their hands. We have heard they have conquered many lands and killed many godless Cumans, and many were driven away. Much evil has befallen the Russian lands at the hands of these Cumans, and therefore merciful God desired that these godless Cumans should die in order to revenge the Christian blood that was upon them, these lawless ones. These Tarmans came across the whole Cuman land and came close to the Russian border. And the remnants of these godless Cumans, under the leadership of Kyivan and other princes, came to the so-called Cuman Wall, where many were killed, with Princes Danil and Kobyakovich and George. This Kyivan was the father-in-law of Mstislavich, the Russian prince of Halich, and he arrived in Halich with greetings for his son-in-law Mstislav Mstislavich and all the other Russian princes. He brought them numerous presents, horses, camels, buffaloes, and girls. And he presented these gifts to them and said the following: these Tatars took away our land, and tomorrow they will come and take away yours. And Kyivan begged his son-in-law. And Mstislav Mstislavich began to beg his brothers, the Russian princes, saying, "Brethren, if we do not help them, they will turn to the Tatars, and so later they will be more powerful." And hence, having deliberated for some time, they decided to start a campaign, responding to the appeals of the Cuman princes. And the warriors began to gather in their respective regions and began a march against the Tatars. After the whole Russian land was united, soon the army came to a place called Zarub on the Dnipro. The Tatars, learning that the Russian princes had begun to march against them, sent their envoys, saying, "We hear that you have followed the advice of the Cumans. Do march against us. But we have neither occupied your lands nor your cities and villages, and we are not campaigning against you. We came because God let us conquer the godless Cumans, who are our slaves and cattle herders. You should make peace with us. If the Cumans came to you, Fight them and take all their belongings. We tell you this because we understand that they have done much harm to you, and that is why we fight them." The Russian princes paid no heed to these speeches, but killed the envoys and marched against the Tatars. They set up camp on the Dnipro in the vicinity of Oleshi, and the Tatars once again sent envoys, and they said the following: "You have listened to the Cumans and have killed our envoys. Come then, though we have not occupied your lands, and it will be an injustice against God and everyone." And the Russians permitted the envoys to go away. And Prince Mstislavich forded the Dnipro and charged the Tatar outpost and took with it 1,000 warriors. As soon as the other Russian princes learned of this action, they all crossed the Dnipro, and after 9 days they came to the River Kalka. They sent the Kuman vanguard under the command of Yarun ahead, while the Russian princes and their armies set up camp. Yarun began fighting with the Tatars, but his Kuman warriors failed and retreated in such haste that they galloped over the Russian camp and trampled it underfoot. And there was no time for the Russian forces to form ranks, and so it came to complete confusion, and a terrible slaughter resulted. Mstislav, Prince of Kyiv, having witnessed this misfortune, decided not to retreat, but took his position over the River Kalka. It was a rocky, rugged place upon which he built a stockade and fought off the Tatars for 3 days. In this fortification with Prince Mstislav there remained his brothers-in-law Andrew and Alexander of Dobrovich. The Tatar troops that besieged the fortification were led by Chingiz Khan and Teshu Khan. With the Tatars were also a number of Brodniki who were under the command of Ploskin. This accursed commander pledged by the Holy Cross that Prince Mstislav and his 2 brothers-in-law would not be killed, but released for ransom. But this accursed Ploskin lied, and he bound the prince's hand and feet and turned them over to the Tatars. The princes were taken by the Tatars and crushed beneath platforms placed over their bodies, on the top of which the Tatars celebrated their victory banquet. And the fortified camp of Mstislav was taken, and all his warriors were slain. The other princes were pursued to the Dnipro, and 6 of them were killed there: Sviatoslav of Yanev, Izyaslav, son of Ingvar, Sviatoslav of Shumsk, Mstislav of Chernihiv, and his son, and George of Nezhvij. But Prince Mstislavich, Prince of Halich, escaped by crossing the Dnipro, and he cut loose the boats from the shore to ensure his escape. Only 1 Russian warrior in 10 lived through this battle. In returning to their homelands, many of these were killed by the Cumans for their horses and clothes. In such a way did God bring confusion upon us, and an endless number of people perished. This evil event came to pass on the day of Jeremiah the prophet, the 31st day of May. It was at the feast I heard this tale. There it was, I drank mead ale. Though it flowed down my beard, my mouth stayed dry, for never a drop passed my lips, swear I.